The silver lining from AMFI's data this month was the fact that the SIP book managed to cross above the 10,000 crore rupee mark on a monthly basis for the first time in history. That said, let's have a look at how the top portfolio managers have rejigged their portfolios in terms of September 2021. Starting off with SBI Mutual Fund, which is India's largest fund house by equity assets, now has total equity AUM worth 3.5 lakh crore rupees, and their top sector exposure is towards financials and IT, while the largest sectoral buys in the previous month came in from financials and materials. The largest sector sells came in from the healthcare space. Talking about the top 5 stock purchases that they had, Chemplast Sanmar stood out over here, more than 1.4 crore shares that they added to the portfolio, and the stock managed to rally as much as 31%. Then you have NHPC, more than 1 crore shares that they picked up, and 2.5% positive return is what the stock delivered. Next you have the 3 large cap names featuring in this list: ICICI Bank, Bharti Airtel and HDFC Bank, where they upped their stake by about 50 to 65 lakh shares each, and all of the 3 stocks managed to return flat to their investors. The largest 5 sells that they had were Yes Bank, 2.5 crore shares that they reduced from their portfolio. The stock went up 5%. Sun Pharma, more than 7 lakh shares sold, and the stock also was largely flat in the previous month. Aurobindo Pharma as well as Hindalco that they reduced about 5 to 6.5 lakh shares each. The stock was slightly down by about 1 to 3 odd percent. Lastly, talking about Lakshmi Organic, they sold off 4 lakh shares and completely exited their positions, and the stock was also flat for the entire month. Moving on to ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund, which is India's second largest fund house, now has total equity assets worth 2.2 lakh crore rupees, and their top sector exposure stands towards the financials and IT space, while their largest sectorial buys came in from financials and consumer discretionary, and their largest sector sells came in from utilities as well as materials. The top 5 purchases that they had, ONGC was top of the pick, 92 lakh shares that they added to their portfolio, and the stock rallied as much as 20%. Barring this, you had Lupin, Motherson Sumi, M&M and SBI Life, where they picked up about 40 to 50 lakh shares each. However, all of these stocks were largely flat with a positive bias, except for Lupin, which declined the entire month by about half odd percent. From the selling space, you had Nalco, where they reduced more than 5.5 crore shares. Stock went up 3%, and then you had large cap names from the utility space, the likes of Power Grid and NTPC, where they reduced more than 3 crore shares, and the stocks managed to rally as much as 10 to 20% each. ITC as well as IOC, where they reduced about 3 to 4.5 crore shares each. Both of the stocks managed to return double digit during the previous month itself. Lastly, talking about the HDFC Mutual Fund houses portfolio, which is the third largest fund house in India, they have equity assets worth nearly 2 lakh crore rupees, and the top sector exposure stands towards financials and industrials. The largest sectoral buys came in from industrials and financials, and the largest sectoral sells came in from the materials and communication space. As far as individual stock purchases are concerned, a lot of mid and small cap bank purchases over here. IDFC First Bank, Bandhan Bank as well as RBL Bank, where they added significant stake. RBL and IDFC First Bank returned double digit to their shareholders, while Bandhan was flat with a negative bias. ITC, they added about 14 lakh shares and the stock rallied 12%, and BPCL, where they added nearly 8 lakh shares and the stock managed to decline as much as 8%. Lastly, talking about the top 5 stock sells, they had Tata Motors top of the list, 60 lakh shares that they sold off, and the stock rallied 16%. SBI also, they sold off about 60 lakh shares, as well as Bharti Airtel, where they reduced 59 lakh shares, and both of these stocks managed to rally more than 5% each. Lastly, Chambal Fertilizer as well as HPCL, they reduced nearly 30 lakh shares from the portfolio, and the stocks managed to rally about 5 to 10% each. So these were the large portfolio changes done by the mutual fund houses in India.